we were pitching the Series A. We said Quinto Andar is going to reach a conversion rate of 20% from from listing to rental. And the investors would say, 20%. You now have 4%. You're never going to reach 20. Well, by the way, nowadays, Quinto Andar has more than 60% conversion rate.
Well, listen, excited to chat with you a little bit more about your experience at Quinto Andar and share a little bit of your knowledge and experience with our community of founders.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, Brian. It's a pleasure to talk to you, as usual. You've been here with us since the beginning of Quinto Andar, early as an angel investor, but always as a friend. So it's always my pleasure to talk to you.
It's great to start the new season with you here. When you look at the startup environment in Latin America, obviously Quinto Andar is on that short list. And I did have a front row seat in seeing those early days in Campinas when you guys went and built that in your test market as the first kind of place where you started building, which I think was a smart idea. And then you obviously expanded to Sao Paulo and all over Brazil. And you worked in the gaming industry before starting Quinto Andar with Gabriel. Set the context. What made you co-found a startup? But talk a little bit more about kind of those early days and that decision to jump into startup land.
At the gaming industry, actually, I was a bit disappointing because I tried two different companies, and the gaming industry at the time, and maybe now as well, it's kind of a cruel environment because you either develop something that extracts like in-game payments all the time, it feels like a casino more than a video game, or you squeeze a team and try to launch portfolio style mini games so that one of them makes money for the publisher, but not for the studio. And the two companies I had were video game studios. So at some point in my life, I had this hard feedback from someone who bought video game service from my studio, and I was calling someone from a big publisher, one of those 5 US-based publishers, and nowadays there are 3 only, by the way. And I called him and I said, "Hey, I won't be able to deliver at this price because the Brazilian currency, the real, is now more valuable because we had this right. The dollar was 2 reais, and then it became 1.6, and my salaries were paid in real, and my revenues were in dollars." I said, "Geez, I'm going to go bankrupt." And I called this guy, and I said, "Look, I can't do at this price." And his answer was polite, but was something around, "That's not my problem. If you can't do at this price, I'll hire someone in Poland who can, because what you do is a commodity." And that hit me like like a truck, right? Like a truck full of cement. Like, that's very hard and very fast. And boom. I said, "Oh." Then I started thinking, well, I think I'm in the wrong industry. If I'm doing something that can be replaced by someone else from elsewhere in the world so fast, that's probably the wrong place to be. And this never left my mind. It was lesson number 1 of don't do this. By the way, there are cases of success in the video game industry. I'm not saying that the industry as a whole is bad. I'm talking about my own experience. And when I decided to do something else, I thought to myself, well, I need to go learn. And the companies that were in vogue at the time were Facebook and Twitter and Google. And all these companies were in Silicon Valley, right? Facebook had just moved to Silicon Valley. The other 2 were founded there. And I convinced myself to leave everything behind and move to Silicon Valley. And the way I found to go to Silicon Valley legally and learn was to try to go to Stanford, because the Stanford is the epicenter of the Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley wouldn't exist if it weren't for Stanford. So I tried to. I was thinking, what could I do there? Because I'm not. I was a computer engineer, but I wanted to maybe do some kind of PhD. Wouldn't be great because. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about business. So I decided to try to enroll for an MBA. And weirdly enough, they accepted me. And So that was how I ended up leaving the video game industry. By the way, in my summer internship during the MBA, I did work at PlayStation just because I wanted to make sure whether is it the video game industry. I was thinking, is it the video game industry, or was it just my business? And I went to work at PlayStation, the big company, right? Great platform at the time. PlayStation 3 was the thing, and that helped me conclude that I wanted to do something else. Well, that industry, my job was done there. And I talked to Gabriel, who at the time was at Airbnb doing the summer internship. And we were talking about building something together. We had met at this MBA, one of the MBA classes. We were studying together, started talking about it. So we should do something together. Then one day, I brought to him a sentence that we started laughing because I said, we need to do something, and we need to fix a problem, one of those Stanford frameworks, right? We need to fix a deep problem, a problem that hits many people, right? Many people have this problem, and we need to have a great product. One of those wishful frameworks, right? All you have to do is build something big, and the product be good, and the problem be deep. Well, okay. And my phrase was, we need to solve a problem that sucks, right? So let's solve something that sucks. It sucks so much as renting an apartment. And then we started laughing, and we started listing a few things, but nothing sucked so much as renting an apartment in Brazil, because, well, the guarantee thing is, et cetera. And we started thinking, again, a wish list of what we wanted to solve, how we wanted the process to be. And that sounded very naive at the time. And that's how Quinto Andar started, by the way. When we talked to the very first potential investors, even there in Stanford, the answer we got is, well, number one, you're heading back to Brazil, which is wrong. You should say, if you're building something weird, you should build here in the Silicon Valley. Brazil is for very local problems or for copying something that already exists outside Brazil. And we kind of insisted in heading back to Brazil. And then the other feedback we got was there are too many moving parts. You're trying to fix the whole experience. You should fix only one thing. You either fix the classifieds, but then there was Viva Real starting, or you fix the insurance thing. Well, we're not an insurance company. We want to fix the whole experience. And we decided to not listen to these advices. And that's one good thing when you're starting something, someone more experienced than you will come to you and give you advice. And it's your role as an entrepreneur, right, to either listen to that advice or not, or to filter.
Now that you've had the perspective of scrapping it out in the early days in Campinas, going from that to a real scale company where you have a senior leadership team and sophisticated process, what are the things that you can kind of draw some comparisons or contrast those different moments in time in a startup?
So I think in the beginning, all you have is a dream about the product. There's nothing else. You don't have, you think you have a market. We started in Campinas, like thinking, let's take over this market here in this city, and actually it never happened. We work there, right? But by the way, we have more liquidity relatively in São Paulo than in Campinas. So we are better than competitors in Campinas, but it never happened the way we thought it would happen. So our thesis was a little bit wrong. We had to expand. But in the beginning, you have this dream of a product that works perfectly, and you go building it step by step, and you want to build that product. The way you reach that product changes, but you have that product in mind. The product vision is what drives us. Then the product starts working and the company starts growing, and it becomes a growth problem. Then it's a different set of people you have to bring in, because when it's only a product, you need a team, you need a person with a product vision, strong product vision. You need to test in the market, iterate very fast. When you start growing, you can't iterate so fast because people are using it. Too many people using you. Maybe you iterate with a part of the product, only a set of your users, but that's difficult. There's a little bit more bureaucracy involved because there are more people using. So you have to change the way that the people you hire, the people you attract, right? You still can have laboratories inside your company, but it's not going to be a matter of life and death. The founder, him or herself, changing everything all the time. So that's a delicate problem to solve when you go from a company that changes every day, the product changes every day. I changed the product myself in the beginning of Quinto Andar. I would enter, not good. Who said it's not good? Me. Or these two users are trying to do this and it's not working. Let's change that. And then it becomes 5 users instead of 2. So, I think it worked. And that's even in the beginning, there's not much statistics involved. It's more qualitative. Then it becomes statistics. Then it becomes, let's do a subset and compare. Because if we do it wrong, we lose a lot of revenue. And right. So the kind of people, it becomes more and more scientific and less artistic as we grow.
I remember you saying at one point, the first version of Quinto was not viable product. How did product development evolve at Quinto as you went through ideation, validation, traction, and growth stages? Do you subscribe to the do things that don't scale framework of thinking?
I do, but sometimes I regret doing things that don't scale. Because if I had a crystal ball and say, okay, you know what? I'm doing things that don't scale, but this specific thing has to scale, otherwise we're gonna have problems. We can get back to that. When the company starts growing, the things that don't scale that you built in the beginning to see if it works or not, they end up struggling to scale because they didn't scale. Now this is scaling. And you have to fix that very fast. And you have to throw people in the problem very fast. Make it scale. And you either throw people in operations or you throw people in software development. And when you throw a lot of people in the problem without thinking through, it's, to say the least, it's expensive. It's an expensive way to fix things. So, but I do like I do like doing things that don't scale in the beginning, because otherwise we just don't have enough money, right? If you're going to build a big concrete bridge for many trucks to pass every day in a road that there are no trucks, you're going to build something very expensive. Just put two wooden logs there and put someone there. Hey, come here. And guiding the 2 cars that pass through every day, it's easier in the beginning. But if you have a line of 5,000 cars, that's going to cost you as well. We did in the beginning at Quinto Andar, we had a crappy website. We didn't have a mobile app. The agents were myself and another agent. I became an agent. In Brazil, agents are licensed. So I took this agent license. And the agent was myself. And
do you still have your Cressy?
I do. And we had this telephone in the middle of the table. It was a landline phone in the middle of the table. And in the website, these are the 20 properties we have. Right? We had like 20 properties listed, and a landline number. Call us, and person would call us, and I would pick up the phone. And they would say, hey, I want to visit this property. And I said, I'm going right now. How come right now? You can't go now? Of course I can. And I would drive and I would meet the person. Sometimes we would get emails. I want to visit this property tomorrow at 8 a.m. And I would read the email. It was already 10 a.m. So we started building Quinto Andar from this part, from the beginning of the experience till the end. And the first thing we built was this visit booking machine. And we could book a visit for any property. And this was also the first thing that exploded, talking about things that don't scale.
Part of the product, it was like pretty gambiaja, right?
It was. And the person would select a date, etc., and it would block the Google Calendar for one of the agents. And that's how it worked. Nowadays, the agents have an app, Quinto Andar app for agents. But at the time, it wasn't, right? So we started fixing things, and for things we did when we had 100 properties would break when we reached 1,000 properties. And that it wasn't too far ahead, right? It would break like 2 months later. And we had to rebuild it all the time. Let's build it with a better algorithm. Let's build it with a better structure. Let's provide a better app for the agent to guide him or herself. We were fast enough to make things just enough scalable, not very scalable, but enough scalable for each moment of the company. That was what allowed us to keep growing constantly. Sometimes we hit a plateau and say, what is causing this plateau? Oh, that thing. And then we run and fix the plateau. And we grew again, plateau, grow again, plateau, grow again. So that was a mindset, little by little changed from go-to-market startup into a growth startup.
Oh, that makes sense. You're enabling those trucks to get over instead of just a 2x4. You've got a handful of planks there, and then you got some structure underneath it. And so you're constantly kind of just making those improvements. If you could share maybe a product tweak or advancement that you made on the product design to drive either, let's say, user acquisition or retention throughout the story, what's the biggest kind of thing that comes to your mind that generated the most impactful results?
A trio in the beginning that generated a lot of results. And the three things, the impact was one, which is fast rental. And we would take a long, long time to rent an apartment in the beginning. It would take like 60 days from the time a person say, oh, I think I want to visit this place, into the person moving in. So this 60 days turnover, that's not going to work with us. So we started by changing the visit booking thing. Nowadays, a person can book a visit and say, I like this apartment. Let's book a visit. Oh, I can view it in 30 minutes. Let me get there in 30 minutes and view it. That's very fast. That's good. And when the person is there viewing, we offer the information. This apartment is actually, there's a high competition here. There are more people looking. So if you want to make an offer, you should offer now. That's not cheating there because people don't trust if you cheat. So we don't do that if the apartment is not hot. But if the apartment is hot, we actually say that. And the person has to make an offer fast. So the person makes an offer, signs the same day the visit. So they find the ad, visit the apartment, and sign the same day. Item number 2 was the guarantee thing. The guarantee in Brazil, you need to find a cosigner. The landlord would have to approve your cosigner. The cosigner would need to have a property in the same city where the property you're renting. And hey, come on! If I know a cosigner who has a property, why don't I rent from him instead of renting from someone else? So it's a little weird, all this bureaucracy. We find a way to overcome this cosigner thing with the guarantee that we offer. So if we offer the landlord a guarantee that she or he is going to be paid on time every month, even if the tenant delays the payment or doesn't pay, that made it very fast as well. And the third thing is that we introduced in Brazil digital, 2011, but 1 year before we launched Quinto Andar, digital signature legal infrastructure had been launched. And I like that very much. My master's, back in the days, I was a computer scientist. My master's was in cryptography. And I liked the digital signature, etc. And I was reading that and I talked to Gabriel, we could do this. The person could sign from a mobile phone instead of going to a notary, a cartório in Brazil and like spending the whole day there in line to authenticate the signature. And then we did that. We actually, the non-scalable thing we did in the beginning was, let's buy this very expensive solution from the US called DocuSign. And by the way, we still use them. And we bought, it was very expensive. The insurance in the beginning was very expensive as well. It was totally non-scalable. But it was so fast that we started having liquidity because we were fast. That was actually the one product tweak. The insurance, just to give you an example, I remember when our revenue at the time, our recurrent revenue was 8%, our take rate on the rent. And the insurance would cost us literally 7.25%. So if we got our revenue, discounted the taxes, that we were already negative there in the beginning, very negative, just by paying the insurance. So unit economics was ridiculous in the beginning. We weren't trying to optimize for unit economics back then. We were trying to optimize for the service, the product. By the way, that made it very difficult for VCs to believe us because they would look at, yeah, everybody says they're going to get economics better. And Gabriel and I had this giant Excel table with the risk analysis that we kind of learned in statistics books, how to do it. And we try to prove to the VCs, look, this is how we're going to build it. This is how much the insurance companies spend. This is the risk they're dealing with. This is their default rate, etc. We have to get to this point where the insurance costs 3% and nobody would believe us. And then at some point, the insurance would cost less than 1% in real life for us. So we brought it from 7.25 to less than 1 without nobody believing that we would bring it to less than 3. So we need to believe that the product is going to be so good that people are going to use it and the volume is going to grow. And if the volume grows, these are the maths that prove that it will work. There was a lot of math. We weren't guessing, but it would depended on volume for it to work.
And so did it turn out to be better than you even forecasted in those models?
Much better. Conversion rates as well. When we were pitching the Series A, we said Quinto Andar is going to reach a conversion rate of 20% from listing to rental. And the investors would say, 20%. You now have 4%. You're never going to reach 20. Well, by the way, nowadays, Quinto Andar has more than 60% conversion rate. But nobody would believe it would be 20%.
Everything you focused on, these three things you mentioned, were all focused around generating liquidity and speed, right? This network effect of like easier it was, the faster it became, the more people talked about it, the more people had a positive experience. They told other people. And I remember in the early days after I invested, and I had a few calls. I remember like a call with Kevin Effersey one time. Kevin Effersey, one of your investors, he was asking me about this whole rent guarantee thing. And like when I talked to him and other investors, one of the most powerful things that I could describe is just describing the existing process. Like that was always did a favor for you guys because it's just absurd to think that you would need to have someone that owns a property in the same city. Like that's, I remember being a college student and like signing a rental guarantee in a McDonald's. I gave the guy like $1,500. That was so easy to do. And in Brazil, like the complexities of that were just so big. So when you talked about the complexities and then you painted a picture of a world where that doesn't exist anymore, that resonated with people, not just investors, but obviously consumers, because they're the ones feeling the problem.
That's what made me excited about Mexico as well. Because in Mexico, we would get there and then people would say, well, the problem with Mexico is that people pay in cash. But why? Because they're afraid of paying taxes. But I mean, what taxes? Everybody pays taxes. You need to pay. I mean, even if you pay cash, you should think about taxes. So you need to just embed it in your cost, right? Oh, but people don't want to pay. Well, pay the taxes and charge more, but pay the taxes. And these things are not obvious when they are already there, right? People don't think about it. They think it's given. Right? They don't challenge the status quo. And we did. We saw that this is what sucks. It takes a long time. The guarantee sucks. The signature process in the cartório sucks. And then we needed to fix all that sucked. That's still the way we think about, and the way I think about starting a new product. What do we need to fix?
If I recall, I know that in the beginning, it's hard when you're a technology company and you're disrupting an industry. I remember there was like some fear around the incumbent players in real estate. You guys kind of adjusted your tone midway through and being more partnership driven. What were the lessons there in terms of like, if you are trying to disrupt a market, yet you need the incumbents to kind of like go along in that process? What is the best strategy to kind of enter that and figure out a way to not create resistance there, instead build momentum with the incumbents? What's your advice to anyone who's trying to disrupt a market?
There's Jeffrey Moore's book called Crossing the Chasm that kind of explains it well. And the industry's changed. So we start in a certain market. We have to look for the players or the clients who are willing to accept your, I'm not going to say, I don't like the word disrupt, but your change, your transformation of the market. And if they accept that, they may bring you some advantage being your clients or partners, but they also have the advantage or of using your value proposition. So if your value proposition is good enough for the first group of clients, that's going to move you forward. Then you have to make your value proposition good for the second group of clients later, either by changing the product a little bit or by convincing the second group using the first group's opinion, right? Making this information spread. Oh, the first group is loving it. You should come. And then the skepticism reduces. Also, this person is not trying to kill me. They're actually trying to change the market. But if I join their side, it's going to be positive for me. The goal of a good company that changes the market is not to kill the competitors. It is to change the quality of the service, change how the service is used by consumers, right? In the cities where Uber was seen as the company that kills taxis, Uber was attacked. But in the cities where Uber was seen as, well, you know what? Let's join it. Nowadays, in some countries, Uber actually has taxis as well, just like 99 had in Brazil, besides having the black cabs and right, the non-taxi cars. So I think this liquidity increase that Uber brought to the taxis that joined them was positive for them. So you have to find what kind of partners are willing to join your cause, who believes your cause, and invite them in. And that does take, in the beginning, that doesn't scale either. So you have to talk to one-on-one to them and go there and bring them in. That's never going to scale if you do this your whole life. But in the beginning, the first group, it's a guerrilla-like strategy.
You have this computer science background, and I can't not talk about a little bit of the topic of AI. What is the framework for thinking about AI at Quinto? What is the internal discussion at maybe a board level or founder level, executive level? You're on paternity leave now, and you've kind of stepped aside a little bit. You've prioritized your family, which I have a lot of respect for. But I'd love to hear the high-level discussions around this topic, because I know it's probably something you think about.
We do. So the way we think is the problems we have at Quinto Andar are often related to volume of exceptions, right? If we have high NPS, except when we don't. There's no person that thinks, oh, Quinto Andar is okay. It's either love or deeply hate, because it's where they live. And it's the place you live is the base of the Maslow pyramid, right? So you live there. It's your life. It's your cave, right? Where you're safe with your family. And suddenly something bad happens in your home. Oh, I hate this company. Right? If everything's okay, then you love the company until you don't. So we suffer from this. So we are love and hate thing. And when people hate us, and I study this a lot, I do read NPS evaluations still today. I read them every week, and some of them make me suffer. And I think things don't go right when there are too many people dealing with an exception, even if it's not a new exception. This exception happened 4 times in the past. But the people who are dealing with this exception now are not the same people who dealt with this exception like 1 month ago or 3 months ago, etc. Just the team is too big here. So it's difficult to standardize for all the exceptions. When things are standardized, then Quinto Andar works greatly. When things can't be fully standardized and we need human perception and judgment, it's difficult to do human judgment work well at this scale, right? Signing 15,000 contracts a month and selling 2,000 apartments a month. So this is where I think AI can help us, because AI can help us understand the exceptions, prepare the person for the exception, and helping this employee judge that specific exception with previous cases. Now, you know what? This is what has been done in 2 months ago. This happened and we made this. 4 months ago, this happened and we made this. So I suggest that you make this now, but take a look. And then it's a co-pilot for the employees. But we don't think that AI is going to make these judgments so soon. We're going to have some hallucinations here. if we trust too much on AI. So this is number one. I think AI helps that with this. In this volume, it's going to help a lot. And we're investing there. We also think AI is going to help people who are searching for apartment but can't brilliantly articulate what they want. And these people, especially with more sophisticated houses and apartments, these people that are searching for a place but can't really articulate, say, no, I don't like this place. I think it's kind of too dark. It's very hard for us to tell a non-human, a non-human that or interface that, oh, I want something brighter, right? I don't want a dark. But it's easy to tell an agent, a human agent, I didn't like this apartment. It's too dark. I want something better. I want something with more sunlight. And okay, I'm going to find you something else. The human being is going to find it. It's a task made for human beings. I also think AI can help us with image analysis, image definition, etc. And this can get us to a better machine for apartment search. So these are the two main areas where we are applying AI nowadays. The beginning of the, let's call it the beginning of the funnel, and the after sales, the customer service. Because customer service depend a lot on humans. And there are many thousands of people replying to customers. It's impossible to have a standard process for all of them unless we have a very intelligent machine.
That makes sense. That makes sense to be in a position when the market kind of takes shape and enables something that you can, leverage. One other question I wanted to ask: Latin America, there's always this question of exits. It comes up quite often. When you look at this next wave of large tech companies in Latin America, what do you predict in terms of the IPO markets? Where do you think Brazil will be and the top companies in Latin America? No one knows when the markets will kind of open for that, but is that something on the table in a future conversation for Quinto? And just what are your thoughts about kind of public market opportunities?
For us, it is on the table. We talk about that. We're not in a hurry, but we are preparing the company for what we call IPO-readiness. So if the good market window comes, all you need to do is press the button because we're ready in terms of profitability and compliance. These are the two main pillars to be ready for IPO. Compliance, we're doing a good job. Profitability, we're doing an excellent job. We're moving fast, evolving fast in these two pillars. IPO nowadays, especially IPO in the US, is for market leaders worldwide, mostly, right? Because the funds that buy shares, they're probably not going to buy the share of the third or fourth place, and market leaders are going to sell the shares. Luckily for us, we are a market leader in real estate in Latin America, or if you wish, real estate transactions online, maybe worldwide. And that is a good position to be. The bad thing is that we don't have a comparable. So people can compare us with Zillow, but that's a very different business. It makes it good and bad at the same time. For companies that are much smaller, I think IPO is either something in a way much lower number, and then therefore outside of the US, maybe in the Brazilian Stock Exchange in São Paulo, or they can look for an exit. Also, we have, for example, at Quinto Andar, we have acquired a few companies throughout our lives, and this is something feasible for a smaller company. But if you're starting a company right now, and if you're pitching for a Series A, if you're not targeting becoming big and not targeting IPO, you're probably not going to get good deals, and probably not going to get excellent investors. So I think we should all aim to be the market leader for the area where we represent and the market we compete. That is reached either having the best product or the best M&A strategy, or both. It matters a lot for the stock market leader. We talk about that. I think we're big enough to talk about that. We just don't think the market right now is very hot. So we're not in a hurry, but we're preparing in case the window opens.
Last question I have as we wrap up. I know that you've made Quinto Andar like, a center point of your life, and you and Gabriel have put so much energy into building it. And you're probably not at a moment where you're thinking about building anything different because you've got a lot invested in this. But if you were to, hypothetical question, if you were to start today and you were to, had a clean slate here and all your energy and time that you'd put into building something new, what sectors or opportunities would you be excited about as an entrepreneur?
I see areas of, if you're listening to a baby in the background, it's my baby. It's across the room.
That is your main startup right now, aside from Quinto. You got.
But by the way, yes, but I think thinking about technology markets, I think number one, I've been paying attention, and it's fundamental change in the market. It's going to happen in the future, and it's when it happens, it's going to be a game changer. Is wireless energy. I think these cables that we have on our tables. All right, we replaced network cables with Wi-Fi, but we didn't replace energy cables with wireless energy. And some companies are working on wireless energy. I think this is going to happen, and this is my favorite theme. I'm kind of. I think the AI is important, but the AI wave, there are too many people talking about it yet already. So unless you have very specific that is enabled by AI, and you have an AI centered company, and if it weren't for AI, it wouldn't happen. I think you shouldn't just talk about AI. People just build a company of anything. They're going to sell mattresses, and they say this mattress is AI oriented. I mean, really? It doesn't make any sense, right? So people write AI in every pitch, and I think this is I get tired of this. So I'm not looking for companies that write AI in any pitch. When they try to talk me into this, I said, sorry, that doesn't look genuine. But I understand that if they don't write AI, they can't talk to investors. Most of them wouldn't talk to investors, so they try writing AI. They're trying to learn how to build this. But I think the industry that's calling my attention right now is wireless. Besides many of the AI things, it's wireless energy. It's one thing, and adjacent to the AI, there are other industries that benefit from the extremely high computing power that we have nowadays, and it's getting just better and better. Parallel computing, so it's computer vision, the 3D space, the fast multiplication of numbers that allow blockchain to happen. And it's kind of a bad word not to say blockchain, but if you stop writing blockchain in every deck and really think about, can this help my company, yes or no? I think it may be a very good tool. So people need to understand the tool, and instead of thinking, I have a solution, what problem do I have for this solution? So understand the tools that are a menu. Think what solution you want to build. And then this is the way I think, at least. Think what solution you want to build. Then look back into the menu and think which of these tools that exist nowadays, the high processing power in general, blockchain, AI, and in the future, the wireless energy, which is something that I'm enthusiastic for.
No, that's exciting stuff. It is a world of opportunities in front of us. And, I want to thank you again for, first of all, letting me be on the journey as an angel investor. Best investment of all time I've ever made. So that is, I feel very lucky that I got to be on the journey with you guys in those early days. And even you guys were also great customers too of Vivaral. And so, our paths have crossed a couple different ways. So thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting. Again, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for all the help. You've helped us much. People who are listening should pay attention to that. Brian Reckford really helped Quinto Andar in the beginning by criticizing, by asking good questions, and by investing. So thank you very much for being a good friend.